Hello, welcome back. This is part of Unit 1, The Art of and Science of Teaching. And we're on to the next topic, which is beliefs and principles of teaching and learning. So, before we begin, I would like for you to take out a piece of paper and try to write down what is it that you believe about learning. Yeah, so write down your thoughts and come back again in 5 minutes. In the last cohorts, I've been collecting what others have been discussing, when they talk about beliefs and learning. So these are thoughts from previous cohorts that has been collected. Yeah, I'm not saying they are right or wrong, but these are things that people have been saying about what they think of learning and teaching. So the first one here that I want to show you is the idea that when you learn, you're absorbing and storing knowledge, you're memorizing and reproducing, you're applying knowledge, you're making sense and abstracting meaning, interpreting and understanding reality in a different way, and changing a person. Now, if you look at the answers closely, a lot of it are quite superficial, yeah, because the absorbing and storing of knowledge means that you're just memorizing. If you look at the Bloom's taxonomy, this is probably the lowest level in Bloom's taxonomy, and the reproduction, and as you go along to applying, you're going up in the Bloom's taxonomy. Making sense and making meaning from what we learn, that is essentially what we try to achieve through learning something new, because we want to use what we learn, and to make sense of what we learn, we want to interpret and understand some kind of a reality through a different perspective, through the learning. And ultimately, when we learn a lot and in depth, it will change the way that we function as a person. So that will be sort of like the ultimate goal of what learning can become. I've also collected a series of things from previous cohorts, their beliefs about teaching, and this is where you can compare your list with their list, and see where you have similarities or things that sounds in the almost similar patterns. So someone said teaching is imparting information, providing framework, and providing appropriate examples. Teaching is a teacher-centered activity with the emphasis of developing the competence of students. So it's about the central role of teachers being the knower in the class, meaning that the teacher is the one who knows everything that has got to work in the class, and all of the activities would center around the teacher, and the teacher would be responsible to develop the capabilities of the students. There's also input from previous cohorts that talked about, again, the teaching vocation is a teacher-centered activity, of it's a way to get students to understand information. This is not wrong, this is not right. It is in a way, a lot of people practice this. A lot of people would use teacher-centered activity. What I'm doing right now with you is very much teacher-centered, because you're not in front of me, and I'm just giving you my explanation about this, in a one-way sort of transmission. It's very much a teacher-centered activity if we allow it to be. It could be a student-centered activity if we know how to do it well. Yeah, so teaching, there's also one input here that says teaching is aimed to change students' conceptions and understanding of the world. Now, this is a very high aiming goal that could be achieved through a quite a long process of building understanding and perhaps modifying the realities in someone's world, in that it will make that person become of a higher um, able, yeah, they're more able, they're more competent in whatever that they're learning. There's another one here that talks about teaching being a student-centered activity. So this is in comparatively to the one that you just saw in the previous slide. They talk about how students are the ones who are supposed to be responsible in the learning process, and that and the content has got to be owned by the students. So the teacher is only helping to monitor, helping to plan, provide feedback, and to provide guidance. Yeah, so it's a little bit different from the way it was articulated in the previous slide. So looking at this, looking at what you have jotted down earlier and what you have seen from the previous cohorts, are there any changes in the way that you see what teaching learning is all about? So look at your piece of paper and try to think if you want to make any kind of modifications onto what you have written. Come back in 5 minutes. I shall continue now with the basic principles of learning. Now, if we want to learn, we have to also remember that people come to our class, they do not have anything in their heads. Everybody comes with something in their head. Yeah, there's always some kind of a prior knowledge that exists in their head. Whether or not they remember, whether or not they're able to trigger it, and whether or not they're able to activate it in your class is a different story. But prior knowledge can either help the learning, or it can actually deter the learning or hinder the learning. Because sometimes when you have a bad experience learning something, when you come back to it, you probably do not want to do it anymore. So it can actually change the way that people get engaged, yeah, with a learning session. So prior knowledge is quite important. It's quite useful to know what students have already learned, for you to use as triggers for your own classes. Motivation generates, directs, and sustains learning behavior. Now, motivation is said to be a strong driver in learning. If you have high motivation, it's most likely that you will accomplish your tasks, your learning activities on time, and maybe more than what is expected. Motivation influences the amount of time and effort that people will put into learning, and it will support the engagement even though difficulties will arise. But motivation is like water. It can be 1 second it can be hot, the next second it can be cold, depending on the situation, depending on the wind that blows around the water. It's ever changing. Yeah, so there are instances, I'm sure, in your lives where you come into a class and you get really motivated because of the way that the instructor teaches you, and you go to another class on the same day, and your motivation is totally kicked out from you, like you don't have you're dragging your feet to go to the class. So this happens when your teachers are not able to trigger the right kind of motivation for students to stay on. The next one is about how students organize knowledge. Yeah, the way that they link one idea to another is very important. A lot of students fail to do this in the first instance, yeah, so that's why guidance is needed, that's why feedback is needed, so that they are able to connect and they're able to network from between one idea to another idea. How do they apply these ideas in different scenarios? um, Learning also includes meaningful engagement. Yeah, meaningful engagement. There must be some kind of a good discussion, yeah, about things that they're learning. The questions must be directed towards helping them to understand the concepts that they're learning. They must be able to articulate it, and to be able to give examples to elaborate on the concepts that they're learning, so it sticks with what they are learning. So I'm going to stop here now, and I'm going to continue in the next video, but I would like for you to recap the basic principles of learning, and then we'll bring that into the next video. Thank you.